Well, welcome everyone. We're not going to start formally yet. I'll give it a few minutes. We'll start at 5 past. But I just want to say a big thank you. Firstly to Janet, you've been in the waiting room since 6:45, and thank you for your patience and not giving up and jumping off. So wonderful to have you here. Michelle, wonderful to have you here also. And Selena, my dear friend. Naresh, beautiful to see you. Oh, Naresh is connecting to audio. Nirmala, it's been a while, so thank you for joining and supporting us this evening. Naresh, wonderful to have you.
Hello, Carol.
Hello, my darling.
I couldn't hear you first, so I forgot to put the microphone on like the.
Yeah.
I can hear you now anyway.
Awesome. So I will do all the formal bits in a moment.
Hi, Carol. Good to see you.
Hi, Nirmala. Lovely to see you.
I was on another Zoom and then I saw this and I thought, I've got to join this as well. So I left my sound healing one. So I'm still in the sound healing mode.
Oh, okay.
She said to snuggle up in with the blanket so you can see I'm all snuggled up.
Yeah, wonderful.
Good to see you.
Oh, that's fantastic. So while we are, my friend Bebo, where's there? Excellent. Welcome, Bebo.
Hi.
Hi, sweetheart. So if we just take a little sound check. I'm in the West Midlands in the UK. I know Bebo's in Loughborough in the UK. Naresh, you're in the West Mids. Yeah. And
I
Selena,
think Loughborough's in the East Midlands, isn't it?
East Midlands?
Yeah, because I'm in the East Midlands too, in Leicestershire.
Oh, you're Leicestershire. Aha, yeah. Okay. Awesome. And Marika is in Birmingham?
Yeah.
Selena's in Birmingham. Oh, someone in the waiting room. I've got to be multitasking with my eyes and my mouth. Right. And Sarah, even though you've told me where you're coming from, please say, so it's coming from you.
I am coming to you from the south of Spain, up in the mountains of Córdoba.
Oh, I bet that's nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Top of a hill.
Awesome. And Zaina?
Yes, I'm calling in from Austin, Texas, in the US.
Awesome. And Paige?
Hi, everyone. I am here in Boulder, Colorado, also from the US.
Awesome. Excellent. So, Laura, where are you joining us from? Okay. All right. Oh, if you recognize anybody in the call, in a flourish, Joe. Joe, welcome. Tell us, where are you joining us from? Sorry, I didn't hear that. Where are you joining us from?
Birmingham.
Birmingham.
I'm in the middle of doing some cooking, so I need to keep this off as well.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
I'm multitasking, but nice to see you all.
Excellent. Well, I think we're going to officially start. I will try and keep my... Okay, Laura. Keep trying. Keep trying. Now, we're going to officially start, and what I'm going to be doing is asking the speakers to raise their hands when I call their names to say hi, so you all know who our speakers are going to be if you don't already. So I'll do it in the order in which they will be speaking this evening. So first we have Paige Frisone.
Yes.
And then we have Marika Carter.
Hi.
Yay! Someone in the waiting room. And then we have Zaina Cronfol.
Yes, hi.
Awesome. And we have, last but not least, Sarah Jackson or Sarah Grace.
Grace, yes.
Grace.
Now, Sarah Grace. So, yes, that's me.
Excellent, excellent. So,
Change my name to avoid confusion.
so welcome. Welcome everyone to this month's Women Empowerment event, which is run on the Kaushalya UK platform. A bit about Kaushalya UK. It is a registered not-for-profit community organisation to empower, uplift women. And the founder, who is not able to be with us this evening, is Ritu Sharma, a Women Empowerment Ambassador, who continues to dedicate her life to women of this world to find their own power and true worth. It's growing organically, and the aims of the organisation is to empower women, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women. And the unique objective is not just to support those who are in dire need, but also to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional, and financial growth. Projects include education, personal and professional growth, health and well-being, financial education and entrepreneurship, social events, and also workshops. Now, a bit about me. I'm Carol Edmondson, and I've been hosting these events since September 2020. And over 200 speakers have been on the Kaushalya UK stage. Stories are powerful, and they can make or break us, as you will hear from our speakers this evening. Now, what we will be doing, first of all, Kaushalya UK has a social presence. They have a website, and I will try and remember to put the details in the chat. They also have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. Now, at the moment, all the videos from the events are going onto the website and eventually will be put on the YouTube channel, which is fairly new. So if I can ask everyone who is not speaking if they can mute their mics. And how it's going to run this evening is that each of the speakers I will introduce to the virtual stage using their bio. And once all 4 speakers have spoken, then I will be opening up the floor for questions and answers. So either put your Q&A, your questions rather, in the chat, and I'll try to keep my eye open for those. Or you can unmute your mics, raise your hand, and ask your questions to any or all of the speakers when we conclude with the 4 speakers. So, without further ado, let me first introduce our speaker this evening, who is Paige Frisone. And hey, Paige, let me spotlight you. There we go. So Paige is a subconscious health practitioner, published writer, poet, dynamic speaker, stationed in Colorado. She's the founder and owner of her integrative practice, Realm Wellness LLC, where she aids clients around the globe in processing trauma and dis-ease subconsciously using over 14 plus different modalities from Eastern and Western medicine combined. Her work is fueled by losing a decade of her life to anorexia, severe depression, anxiety, self-harm, various traumas, and ineffective prescription meds. So this may come with a trigger warning. So Paige, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we are with you 100% of the way. I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Hello, everybody. I am so honored, blessed, privileged to be on this stage speaking amongst all of you. And in our next 20 minutes or so together, I want us to be engaged. I want us to go deep. I want to be raw and real and vulnerable and honest and acknowledge that we are all co-creating this space with care. So I would love to have an engaged group today. I'm so grateful for all of you for showing up. I first learned about this concept about life being 80% successful just by you showing up. I learned this quote at my first school at an orientation, and I was in the thick of a war within myself. And I didn't know what it meant to hear this phrase that said 80% of life is showing up. And that's all that I could do at the time. And so I commend all of you here today for showing up, because it really is more than half the battle. So I'd like to just kind of jump off the bat here today and ask a question to all of you. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see your faces. Please type number 1 in the chat if you are currently experiencing something, or you have experienced something historically that you would never choose to experience. You don't have to say what the experience is, but you're currently experiencing something, or you have experienced something that you would never choose to experience. Yes, lots of ones flying in right away. Beautiful. Amazing. Yeah. And so here's the deal. Whether that thing is mental health oriented, health diagnosis, abusive relationship, whatever that experience is that you are not experiencing is coming from a subconscious place. And so I want to congratulate you, because this is the field of energy that unites all of us together. No matter what our experiences are that we're experiencing in different ways, we all have similar moments in life. And so I want to welcome you to this weird space, this club called humanity, where the subconscious actually speaks through symptoms and patterns of behavior and unwanted thoughts and programs to get our attention. And so in this first 2 minutes, we've already instantly accessed the subconscious mind, because whatever it is that we're experiencing that we're not choosing is coming from a different place. And we're going to talk about that today. The subconscious is the autonomic, reactive, 95% of the brain. It's invisible. If you think about an iceberg, it's everything you can't see that lives below the surface. And this is how we operate on autopilot. So the tip of the iceberg is 5%. It's the conscious choosing brain. It's what allows me to speak with all of you right now and to choose, do I want a salad or yogurt for lunch? Do I want to go for a walk inside or outside? Right? Those are the analytical processing parts. But the rest of it is really what needs our attention. And this is the part that's most dismissed in society, in Western health protocol, in our understanding of our existence, both anatomically and physiologically and energetically. The main job of the subconscious is to protect. It's to help awaken us to our fullest potential. And yet our limiting beliefs get in the way. We think, oh my gosh, here we go with this chronic flare-up of sinusitis again, or this autoimmune conversation, like what's wrong with me? And so we've made access to the subconscious mind, but it's a matter of like, what do we do about it, right? Because it's not enough to know. It's not enough to have awareness about yourself. I love therapy. I'm a therapy enthusiast, and I'm going to talk about that, but it's not enough because it's only addressing 5% of the brain. People say all the time, where there's a will, there's a way. But what is the way? Why isn't it as easy when it comes to making change or health to just think happy thoughts, or just use your willpower to try harder? I think I was the hardest working therapy client that I've ever met. I had a jump start at age 7 because I woke up screaming bloody murder every single night to invasions and shadows and forces that came through that I had not had vocabulary to explain the next morning. I've been in and out of 7 treatment stays. I've seen tens and tens of therapists throughout my life, and specialists and doctors. And some could say that's commitment. To me, I see immense privilege when I hear these things, to have received such care, and I'm so grateful. I would not have been who I am today without that type of help. But at the same time, I ask this question, like, why after 7 bouts of treatment, tens of therapists, doctors, and specialists, was I no closer to finding health? Why were the answers not coming from the people in my life who were supposed to have the answers? 9 years ago, I walked into my therapist's office in a treatment center for eating disorders in Denver while she was away on vacation. Her replacement, Cindy, walked in cautiously, knowing that I didn't deal with perceived abandonment very well. In my one and only session with Cindy, she said to me, Paige, I want you to recount your life. She had been amongst tens of other therapists throughout my lifetime to ask me these questions like, why are you here? What happened? Why do you struggle with anxiety, depression, self-harm, exercise addiction? Why can't you eat? As if I hadn't already been racking my brain 24/7, 365, trying to figure it out. I love therapy, but I hate these questions. The more people asked me why, the more I repelled and rebelled and raged. And so in my attempts to appease her in this moment, I told her what I remembered. I said, Cindy, I played the tolerance game when I was a kid. And she goes, Paige, what's the tolerance game? I said, you see, I was afraid of everything. The dark, my mind, my hands, my ability to be a soul embodied in this lifetime. And so I thought that I was going to get kidnapped and that I would be held hostage without food or water, and I needed to be strong. And my definition of strength at that time was to be able to tolerate pain. I tested this theory in middle school and it was brilliant. I took it to my friends, and every time they hurt me or said something hurtful, I didn't give them an ounce of vulnerability on my facial expressions because I didn't want them to know what was going on with me. And instead, I shut down my nervous system, my innate cues of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But these thoughts came from somewhere. And eventually I learned that this game was never a conscious choice. It protected me from what came before and resultantly what was to come. I believed life was hard, and so I had to fight. But that plan backfired and things got worse than I ever could have imagined. What helped me reclaim control at that time started controlling me. Instead of being trapped by another, I actually became trapped within myself. I didn't let myself have nourishment in case I had to go hungry. I didn't let myself rest in case I needed to be on guard. These are not ideal thoughts for a kid to have, but they're brilliant. And those protectors, that brilliance, comes with consequences sometimes. I lost 10 years to the eating disorders demands. It said starve, be smaller, hurt yourself, you're not worth food or life or anything. These thoughts, too, came from somewhere. This day in this office back in 2013, I realized that anorexia came from one magical thought, a perceived sense of danger that wasn't ever real. But that's the thing about the subconscious. It does not know the difference between memory, reality, and imagination. And I was a walking, talking regurgitation of this confusion where all of the spheres and realms of my reality and imagination came together. I could not make the connection at that time that just as anorexia silenced me, the night terrors prior to that silenced me first. But even if I could have made that connection, what would it have done? What would it have been to have that awareness, to have that information? It would have only gotten me so far. My trauma as a kid was being subconsciously processed and involuntarily reenacted. But to the conscious mind, it sees anorexia and night terrors as two very different things. In our lives, we perceive that my stress from work and my stress from home and my stress from relationship are all different things, but they're not. You see, when I feel fear, it triggers every other moment of my life I've ever felt fear, and most importantly, the first moment. And unless and until we heal that original occurrence, that memory that's responsible for triggering present-day stress, it will continue showing up in every single way. So regardless of this revelation, that anorexia, this monster that had come inside myself, this one magical thought that was not ever real, regardless of my self-awareness, which I had in spades, it did not stop the behaviors. And I want to just check in with everyone here because my guess is I'm amongst a company of women and people who are very self-aware and very smart. And I want to see a 1 in the chat if you are relating to these entities, these thought patterns, these behaviors that take us and feel out of our control that we actually don't feel we have choice in. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can relate to these voices or entities or things within us that we feel dominated by, that we don't actually perceive we have a choice with. Yeah, beautiful. Xeno 1 for sure. And as we can relate to the interconnectivity of all of these experiences, I want to share that it's so powerful how even when we think we have a choice, there's something else driving the show. I logically knew that my experiences didn't make any sense, but I couldn't rationalize with this irrational part. Couldn't talk myself out of it. I tried. They say recovery is what happens once you walk out the door. And I'll tell you, after I left that office with Cindy, I walked out of the door and I restricted and I went right back to where I started immediately. Soon, anorexia found more ways to get creative. I became addicted to weight loss products. I wound up in the hospital over and over again, did more therapy, learned more things, and the cycle continued. Why? The people who ask, why are you upset? What's wrong? Why is this happening to you? Are people who address merely 5% of the conscious mind. We are neglecting and negating the 95%. You know the phrase, heal the root so the tree is stable? The roots live in the subconscious. They're underground, right? It knows what memories signal, what trauma and when. It's like a camera that takes screenshots. And at the moment of unsafety that we perceive, it knows the sensations, the taste, the touch, the feelings, the moments, the visuals of that experience. And it continues getting stored until fully processed. And so here is where my professional work comes in, because I am so passionate about helping people process the subconsciously stored memories that are triggering present day stress. And I am here to help you remember that which we're programmed to forget, that we are here to heal no matter what. Regardless of limiting beliefs, regardless of life circumstance, regardless of diagnoses. And that at the root of every physical symptom is an emotional, unprocessed memory. And the body's designed to heal. But again, our perceptions, our limiting beliefs, our experiences get in the way. I'm currently working with former therapists of mine who know me inside out, and they know what I struggled with. And I said, guys, you neglected in this system of westernized care the root cause of trauma. Why is it that I had to go back into the door over and over again and have all of these different awarenesses about the mind, but only the 5%? No one talks about how to heal the trauma, and we can't heal diagnoses until we heal that trauma. And so I am here as a professional subconscious health practitioner, dedicated to helping you heal on a cellular level by processing these memories that are triggering present day stress and dis-ease and disorder and dysfunction. I use an integrative system that incorporates over 14 modalities from Eastern and Western medicine combined to upgrade the cellular memory of our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies. This is a unique and comprehensive and intricate system. It's not anti-Western whatsoever. It is about being smart, efficient, effective, and expediting what otherwise would be years and years and years of therapy. We address that root cause, some of which we know what it is, some of which we don't. And we get to heal on a sustainable level, on a level that sustains itself. So I have a couple gifts for you just for being here today. The first one is a comprehensive affirmation and resource kit for sustained health and wellness. This is something I offer clients and non-clients alike, anyone who's interested in either kickstarting or complementing your healing journey. Whatever practices you currently have that are working, or maybe you want to call in something else, this is a choose your own playground type of adventure. This is something where you can work with mantras, you can work with external resources. I have a whole bunch of links and activities for you to try and play with. This is something that is recommended no matter where you are in your journey. So I'm going to drop that link for you at the end of this talk. And then for those who are like really in an acute moment of their lives right now that feel like, I'm just so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I don't know where to start, and nothing that I've tried is working, I am here for those who are committed to change. And if that is you right now today, know that you are never alone. There is always a way. There are always resources for you. And so if that is you and you do need that help, I have discovery calls that are available, and I can drop that link for you as well. And I am here all about paradigm shifting. This is about really understanding to your core that you are here to heal no matter what. And I can champion you all day long, and I would love to. But this is really about you being the light that you seek, and me being here to simply help you prove that. And so I really would just invite, in closing, an awareness of this quote that I love so much. This is from Nicola Hobbs, who's a female psychologist. She poses a new perspective about like how we perceive ourselves and what we perceive. So often we can see and categorize and compartmentalize certain parts of us as being self-sabotaging or self-saboteurs. And it's really easy to judge the subconscious as being this addictive and bad shadowed part. The truth is we really need that part. And so it's not just about making peace with it, but knowing how to strategize with it to live our life of optimal health and wellness and intention. So Nicola says, there's no such thing as self-sabotage. When we think we're self-sabotaging, what we're actually doing on an unconscious level is soothing and protecting ourselves in the best way we know how. Our brains don't know how to self-sabotage. They only know how to self-protect. Our nervous systems don't know how to self-sabotage. They only know how to shift into survival mode whenever they perceive a potential threat. Our bodies don't know how to self-sabotage. They only know how to fight, flight, freeze, fawn when we don't feel safe. I really invite us to all take a moment here and breathe. Let's take a deep inhale. And let everything go as we just acknowledge and honor the processing that's happening right now. My work here is to help people transition from the dark into the light, from the comfort of the disorder into the discomfort of the unknown. Because it is true, and it is what Marianne Williamson says, right? Like our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And so transitioning into the light doesn't just mean dipping your toes in, doesn't just mean seeing how good it can be, it means living there and becoming of such a high vibration that you can't even tolerate depressive thoughts or anxious feelings or symptoms anymore, because you're worth more and you deserve more. And we all have to up our standard of living right now. I am here and my mission is to share that healing is not the exception, it's the rule. Healing is not the exception, it's the rule. And the best ending of this story is that it only gets better. It only gets better. No matter if today is your first day in healing or you've been at this for decades, start again now. So I want to hear from all of you again. I'd love to have a dropped one in the chat if you are committed to change. If you are committed to change, I want to see this collective energy coming together, this commitment that we are co-creating. Drop a one in the chat if you are committed to change right now. Yeah, lots of ones, Laura. I love it. Yep, fantastic. This commitment is the beginning. You do not have to know, Carol, one, yes. You do not have to know what it looks like exactly right now, but you do have to want to be committed. And that desire will carry you to the next thing, and you always have support available. This world would be 300% different if the current healthcare providers of the world were informed about the subconscious, what it means, how it impacts us, and how to use it in healing protocol. And both medical healthcare professionals and non-medical healthcare professionals need to band together in equanimity and validity and knowing that we all need each other right now. It's not about my way is the way. It's about knowing that there are so many infinite ways for you to heal. And it's my job just to help you find what that looks like. Never settle for less. Heal subconscious programs. Master your conscious life. This is the game. This is the work. And this is why we're here. Thank you all so much. It's been amazing to spend time with you. I hope this was valuable. And I can't wait to answer questions at the end if you have them. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. What a start. What an absolutely amazing start. Whoa. So lots of gems there. And I hope you'll have some questions at the end. I notice Laura has been dropping comments in the chat for you, Paige, and do take advantage of Paige's free offerings, her free gifts. Save the chat, copy the links. What an amazing start for our evening. And I always say, people who are not on these calls, they don't know what they're missing. But the saying is, those who are meant to be here are here. So, thank you, Paige. And now I'm going to bring to the stage Marika.
Hi, everybody.
I will just introduce. Yes, Marika, say it before I introduce you.
No, you carry on, Carol.
So I'd like to introduce you to, someone in the, okay. Marika Carter. Who is Marika Carter? Well, she's a CEO of Meeks Physiques, a qualified fitness instructor and online coach, specializing in helping men and women become the best version of themselves mentally and physically. Sorry, I've just got to let someone in the mentally and physically, building a much healthier, sustainable lifestyle. Marika is 34 years old and a mother of a 15-year-old son, whom she had at a young age and considers herself to have grown up quickly. She has battled with self-love, broken relationships, depression, and how to have a more balanced mindset and find peace generally within herself, being the overthinker that she is. In February 2016, Marika was incarcerated. This was a shock to her, as it was to many also. Her life at that time was spiraling out of control, and 15 seconds of her life turned into a 4.5-year prison sentence. During her time away, this is where Marika found herself. This was where her life really began to change for the better. And Marika, I have heard your story and I can't wait for you to share it. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Hi, everybody. I just want to first of all say, Paige, that was very powerful, and I could relate to quite a lot of the things that you spoke about. So thank you. For myself, where do I begin? 7 years ago, I'm now 34. I was incarcerated for an offence in which wasn't even so certain people, I would say, it wasn't intended, it wasn't my intention. I was on a night out, and I got into an altercation with a lady who I do not know, and we ended up in an argument which ended with us having a fight. And those 15 seconds is what changed my life. Now, going back, prior to that, I was in a relationship with someone who was older than me, 10 years, and the relationship wasn't the best. I don't know if anyone goes off by their intuition a lot. I do. And during being with that person, as the time went on, I just felt something was slightly off. They was very clingy. I'm a very free person, so I was feeling a bit claustrophobic in the relationship, and did mention to them it's probably best that we have a bit of time apart. Now, this is where I got to see who that real person was. I was with that person for 3 years. I never knew that that person was a drug addict. They was obviously trying to be a better person and not use anymore, which is probably why I never found out. His mother never told me, none of his family members. And I mean, why would anybody tell anybody's past? Because they're trying to move forwards. For whatever reason why he decided to use again, up to this day, I don't know. But I would put it down to probably triggers, because in life we all have triggers that set us off to make us do certain things. So I think when we decided to finish and I needed that break, that's when he decided to use. Now, I didn't know about this because I was just feeling a certain vibe. So during the time of me getting into the situation I was in on the night of Halloween, it was a build-up of stress, anxiety from what I was going through, which I wasn't telling anybody because I felt embarrassed. I also, didn't know how to speak to anyone about what I was going through, because like anyone would say, well, just leave the person, and which I did, but that person just wouldn't let things lie. They were stalking me, turning up at my house. It got to a point where all of my belongings in my house got taken away. So there was, I came home one day, there was no TV, everything was gone. Everything electrical, anything you could sell. During that time, obviously, everyone said, contact the police, speaking to them, and they couldn't really help at that time as much as I was expecting them to. I just wanted my things back and wanted to live my life and move forward. But they said, because when you're in a relationship, it's down to mitigated circumstances. So basically what belonged to me, they needed me to prove was mine. So it was a build-up of things. It wasn't just something that just happened and got sorted out. So when I went out with a friend who said to me, Marika, come on, let's go out, let's let your hair down and just forget about everything that's going on at the moment. So I decided to. My friend was seeing a DJ at the time, so I was the third wheel, unfortunately. And we went out and we was in a food shop after the night, and I was standing there waiting for my food, and there was a lady that come in. I remember a lady coming in with her partner, and she had on some shoes. Imagine it was freezing, so she had shoes on, but she took them off because she said that she couldn't walk in them. And I, at the time, used to stuff my bra with either chicken fillets or socks. So I had socks in my bra, and I took them off, gave them to the lady and said, put them on your feet. And she laughed. Her partner laughed, who she was with, because me having socks, who has socks in their bra? We was all waiting for our food, and there was a lady behind the lady I was speaking to with her partner. My friend smoked, so she was outside with the person she was seeing. And all I said was, oh my God, this food is taking forever. Bearing in mind, everyone else was waiting for their food as well. So it was just kind of, when you say something aloud rather than keeping it in your head. So I was like, God, this food's taking long. And then the lady that was behind the woman I was speaking to said, be patient like the effing rest of us. So I said to the lady, what did you say? The lady walked up to me. At that time, I've always worked with customer service, so I know about personal space and how close someone obviously should be in contact with yourself. She was basically toe-to-toe with myself, and she repeated what she said by saying, I said. At this point, my reaction was to kind of hit back. So I pushed her to move out the way. We got into an altercation. She punched me. Then 15 seconds of me just losing it, literally like that, was where I ended up from 2016. The incident did happen on Broad Street. When I was arrested immediately, and the lady was taken away as well, it was down to the fact of the lady's injury, which didn't go in my favour. So although I had injuries, her injury was worse than mine. And also as well, it's about who makes the first contact. So although she never touched me, she came towards me, but I made the first move, which didn't go in my favour yet again. From October to February is when I was going to court to find out what was going to happen. I did eventually get a move, which was a positive thing about my actual experience with the ex-partner. They moved me. I got a beautiful house, which was in Wednesbury. It was beautiful, but I couldn't move forward with what I wanted to do and in my life because of moving from that situation to now this. So it was kind of, everyone was saying, you're going to be fine. You've never had any problems with the police before. You're a mom, all these things, you're going, everything's going to be fine. You'll just have community service. That wasn't the case in 2016. When I went to court, they wanted to issue me with 9 years with a Section 18 GBH with no previous at all. I don't quite remember how I felt at that time, because I just remember feeling like my legs were going to buckle at that time. My intention was never to hurt anyone. All I can put it down to is when you hold certain things in, which I was, my anger that I felt at that time definitely came out on that woman. And I am, up to this day, sorry for that. I can't apologise to the woman because I do not know who she is. But I'm sure she knows who I am. And she's probably seen some of my speeches already. So from when I was sentenced, I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. I did have my hopes up. They gave me 9 years and I went down the steps to just wait in the room. My parents were there and everything. Didn't really remember looking at them. I just remember feeling numb and blank. As I've gone down to the room, I was told to come back up. And I came back up and they said, due to obviously my character references from work, because I used to work for Volkswagen and I was working for a company in London that did HMOs. So I had 2 jobs. They said, everyone has said how great you are, with people. I was literally the person when people came in angry about their cars, I could calm them down and, I was really good and as a people's person. So they said, due to your good character references, we're going to give you 4.5 years. And from that day, I was taken away. And that time my son was 7 years old. Luckily, I've got his dad, who is a good father, who's always been in his life, had him every single weekend if I ever wanted to go out and do anything like that. So I felt quite at ease, luckily, that my son had someone to go to, because unfortunately with my family, I don't have that tight network where I could have allowed and felt comfortable with my son to have gone elsewhere. During the time of me going to prison and being in prison, there was a lot of things I learned about myself and a lot of things that people didn't know. And that's one, that I'm visually impaired. I don't think Carol knows, but she will now. Not a lot of people know it because I've never felt comfortable in my glasses. My nan went to blind school, so I've got my eyesight from my nan. So whilst I was there was no contacts for me and there was no glasses, because I went with my contacts and I didn't have glasses, anything like that. I remember going the whole 2 weeks with my hair like this, but literally out there, because there was nothing. I didn't even have a rag to clean myself with. I had to use my knickers. It was rough. And I remember just sitting there thinking, my son, why am I here? How am I going to do this? And I can't let it beat me. I can't let this take me any further down than I was. So whilst I was there, I was blind for 2 weeks. Literally, if I didn't have my contacts in now, ladies, I wouldn't be able to see any of yous. It was kind of like just see and feel and hear. And that was how I had to get through them 2 weeks. Being in prison really did make me open my mindset, change my mindset. I started doing a lot of positive affirmations, daily affirmations, reading The Secret, Magic, anything to keep me active, actively thinking, keeping positive. I would go to the gym every day. Every day. I was a gym orderly in the gym. And I remember being there and thinking, okay, everybody in life has an addiction. Some people will say they don't. They do. They're either drinking, they smoke, they take drugs, they need to train, they overtrain, like Paige says. And some people just, for myself, training is what helped me to get through the worst point of my life, and what has made me then help others. So whilst I was in prison, I decided to do surveys to find out how people would prefer to learn, to be taught, whether it was at home, gym-based, and how much they would pay. So that was kind of something that kept me going in prison, because in my mind I thought, right, this is what I'm going to do when I leave. I did as many courses as I could. I had to do a course on alcoholism because of my offence happening with having alcohol intake. Obviously, anger. I did. IAG. I did an IAG course. So I just kept myself busy. The time in prison did go quick. I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't go back, but it did go quick because I kept myself busy. I didn't want frequent visits because that made it feel longer. And whilst I was in prison, before I could come out, I had to have escorted visits, because with a Section 18, it's one down from murder. I know, it's one down from murder, and I had to have 3 escort visits to make sure I was safe enough to go into the public. So I did this. There was officers in there that was, they're not allowed to say certain things to you, but there was always like, Marika, I can't believe you're in here. There's people who have done what you've done worse. And I've seen them come in, they did 6 months, gone. For the second time, one woman, 6 times what she did. 6 months what she did, second time, and she was gone in 6 months. So I kind of see it as, it's a case of, how can I put it? Yeah, I don't regret going to prison, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be where I am now. I do believe that you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I do believe that your path and what your life is set out to be is how it's going to go. On my goal list, and what I ever thought for myself was never I was going to go to prison. Out of all my family, when they say to me what they've done, they always say, it's like you've took the wrath for what we've done, because we should have all gone. You to go was like a massive shock. But that's what helped to change me. And whilst I was in prison, I had my escorted visits. I went into an outhouse where I could go to work, which was great. I was working at Max Spielman at One Stop, and I was working there, and they didn't judge me. I didn't feel uncomfortable whilst I was there. I actually enjoyed going to work, coming back. It was like normality for me, because that's what I was used to anyway. So I thought, well, at least I'm coming out into society again, and I'm back to normality, if you know what I mean. And the job was great. It was different to what I was used to. I mean, doing pictures was a bit boring, but it was something it was something for me to do. Whilst I was going back and forth from there, because I was due to be released, I ended up bumping into a woman who was doing it's a fragrance shop, but in the fort they had a stall in the fragrance shop, not an actual shop. And we got talking, and she was just like, you're very bubbly, easy to talk to. We're actually looking for someone. Would you be interested in a job? And I thought, this is perfect. I was due to come out of prison. So I booked myself in with the lady to have an interview, and didn't tell her anything about my past as yet. And I felt leaving Max Spielman, although that was my, step to getting back to normality, I needed to move to another place, because I didn't want to feel stuck from coming from there to there, because obviously they put people into work from prison from there, and I felt like achieving a job myself somewhere different, better, with a better opportunity as well. So I went for my interview, and the gentleman, I told everything, his name was Matthew. I had my tag on my foot, which I couldn't open the shop, I couldn't close the shop because I was on time restrictions. And he was brilliant, he was understanding, and he offered me the job there on the spot. From there, a year in, I was offered manager's position, and I was a manager there. I loved the job, it was brilliant, got on with everyone, but it was too damn easy. So I gone from doing something that was boring and something I could just do so easily. So I thought, right, I'm going to use this time, get my qualification in fitness, which I did. And I started teaching at the Birmingham University, sports and fitness, and I was teaching various classes, water aerobics and spin. So going through these pictures, thank you, Carol. That was me just a year ago, when I put on some weight. Some people will say it's not that bad, but for me, it was like, okay, you're letting yourself go a bit. And this is me present with a different hairstyle. This is a work that I did with Sean. Sean only did 6 weeks with myself, and it was just to get him back feeling confident in the gym. His wife actually brought him to me. He was travelling all the way from Wolverhampton to Erdington. He was dedicated, doing 2 sessions a week. I'm still in great connection with them up to today as well. He's still doing amazing, but he just did his sessions to get himself back to where he wanted to be. And this was me 7 years ago, highly stressed, not eating, in a very dark place mentally. And this is me now. This is my first ever client who started training with me in 2020. She still trains with me now. Kira, she's now a social worker. She's qualified. When she started with me, she was a self-harming, on medication for depression, in a very bad relationship, size 20 to 22. She started with me in June, and by February, she was a size 12. And by April, which is her birthday, next week, on the 30th, she got to a size 10. She still trains with me because it helps her mentally, and also she likes the routine that she's currently in. She doesn't have time to go out and go to the gym with her kids. She's got a child who I teach also who's got autism, so she just finds it easier to train at home. This is one of my clients up to today's date. She's 20 sessions in. She does 2 sessions a week. She's just booked for another 20 sessions, and she's doing brilliantly. A lot of my ladies and men, I get them to understand that it's a lifestyle. You have to look at your journey when you're wanting to get into a better health, that you want to make it something where you're consistent with. Something that you can also as well maintain. So that's what I've been teaching Rowan to do, and she's doing fabulous at the moment. This is another one of my clients. She's actually a footballer's wife. He is a Aston Villa player, one of the best ones at the moment. And she came to me. She had her son, who's 2 years old now, and she just wanted to really tighten everything up. And this is her currently in the green today's date. So yeah, ladies, I know I've been talking for some time now. So what prison actually made me realise is that what I wanted to do in my life. If I didn't go, I'd probably still be in the job that I was in, because I was comfortable in it. And it's sometimes when we're comfortable somewhere, we don't move away from it. I started Meets Physiques in 2020. I'm 3 years in this year. My business is forever growing. I'm very grateful. I've helped a lot of women, not just with their physical appearance, but mentally, because they understand. I'm very honest with where I'm coming from, where I've been, and that, you know, it doesn't just happen overnight, but you can work on yourself to become the better version of yourself. I am looking to be going into the prisons. I've already been into Brinsford and helped one of the males who did come out but ended up going back into prison, because, you know, as we know, life, sticking to something is what people find hard. So we can know what we want. It's keeping going till we get there and achieve what we're trying to achieve. But I do aim to go into the prisons to give back, to show my face back in Boston Hall, Drake Hall, to say, you know, you can change your life. You can go through what you're going through now and come out and not end up being a prolific offender and going back inside. Because the amount of times I was in there and some people come in, what in the time I was there was very shocking, very shocking. So yeah, with myself, my son is now 15, so I feel quite proud of myself in the sense where, you know, I could have let my situation break me. I could have, you know, given up, but it just really made me reflect on myself and be the person that I am today. Thank you, everybody. I think my time is up. Thank you.
Oh, Marika, thank you for sharing that. Oh, my goodness. I can't wait to see you again. At least, Marika, I've met face to face.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Awesome. And I'm sure there'll be questions for you at the Q&A.
Yeah.
Right. So on to our next speaker, who is Zaina Cronfall. Let me spotlight you, Zaina. Awesome. So Zaina is an ICF, and I'm sure you'll tell us what that stands for, Certified Career Transitions Coach, consultant and founder of C-Rock Coaching, with over 12 years of cross-functional leadership in international product marketing, brand strategy, and project management. From the beginning of her career, Zaina knew she was destined to help people, but she had no idea how. Despite years of successfully climbing the corporate ladder, she continuously felt stifled and unfulfilled. It wasn't until Zaina started her own self-healing journey that she fell into coaching, started her own business, and now helps people reconnect with their passions, navigate change, and find fulfillment. Zaina, I yield the floor to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me here today. It is an absolute honor to share the stage with these amazing and inspirational speakers. So I'd like to start out and share just something about myself. I haven't always been the person that you see here in front of you today, to allow myself, like these other very brave speakers, to be vulnerable and put myself in a position on his stage, no less, and share parts of myself that I used to hide and actually be a little embarrassed of doing. It actually took me years to not only find, but truly step into this more aligned and authentic version of myself. A little background on me: I grew up in a very loving family as a child of immigrant parents, first generation American here in the US. I didn't really come to appreciate how beautiful my cultural background and upbringing were until I was much older in life. You see, when I was younger, I constantly felt like I was torn between two radically different worlds and cultures, one here within the US and the other abroad in the Middle East in Lebanon. And seemingly, no matter how hard I tried to fit in, I never really felt like I was good enough for either of these worlds. I never felt like I truly did belong or fit in. And because of that, I ended up spending a majority of my life being a people pleaser. I, like many females, was a perfectionist and tried to tiptoe around the needs of other people to ensure that they always felt happy, safe, and secure, in the hopes that someone would also do that for me one day. Now, this, what's called anxious attachment pattern, is something that was passed down to me from different generations within my family. And these were generations of people, particularly women, who had all experienced war. They had experienced a lot of trauma and were kind of operating out of survival mode. And in this model of the world, you weren't supposed to ask any questions. You simply just showed up and did as you were told. And again, like many females, we kind of fell into this expectation that you were just supposed to play the role of a good girl. Now, anyone who's close to me knows me well enough to know and will say about me that I've always hated following any sort of rules. We actually joke in my family all the time about how I am the black sheep of the family, and how anytime I've ever felt any sort of constraint or felt like I wasn't allowed or supposed to do something, that I would just instantaneously rebel. Now, an interesting thing to note about people who are rebellious, especially in our youth, is that the things that you tend to push away and reject are oftentimes the things that you actually just really deeply desire and truly want in your life. And for me, what I'd always wanted and truly, truly craved deep down was a deep sense of connection with the people around me. And despite wanting so badly to be seen, I typically preferred to hide in the shadows because I felt so different from everyone around me. And the more that I tried to fit in any of these environments, the more I inevitably just stuck out. So this whole song and dance constantly left me feeling very alone, like I had nobody to speak with, like nobody truly understood me. So I spent a majority of my life always seeking and looking to have someone by my side, someone who could kind of take me under their wing and help me to discover my path because they saw the real me. Now, we all know that the universe works in mysterious ways. And because the type of help that I needed at the time didn't really seem to exist, or I wasn't able to find it, it turned out that I would unknowingly start down a path where I would actually end up spending a lifetime creating it, not only for myself, but for other people as well, who are now my clients. So this brings me to why I'm here with you all today. As you may have already experienced or kind of getting the gist of by these amazing speakers on stage so far, there's so much power in sharing our lived experiences. Having the ability to be vulnerable for others, and not only others, but ourselves, allows us to connect and grow at a much deeper level. So I'd like to share parts of my story today with you all in the hopes that it empowers you to get into the driver's seat of your life, that it inspires you to take action so you can stop allowing life to happen to you and start actually making life happen for you. Now, each one of us is on our own unique journey. And many of us probably have experienced how paralyzing and isolating feeling stuck at some point in our life and alone can be. Now, if there's anything that we as a collective can take away from these past few years, it's how precious and limited our time here on earth can truly be. Now, I heard a quote recently that really, really stuck with me and I'd like to share with you all. It was a conversation with the Buddha, and when asked, what's the biggest mistake we make in life? The Buddha replied, the biggest mistake we make is that we think we have time. So I'd like to make the most of the time that we have together today and share the 3 things that I always come back to when I'm navigating any sort of change, especially these big changes and transitions. I've actually created I've made these 3 things the pillars of my business that have helped me move through these big transitions. And I now help my clients do the same in both their personal and professional lives. So pillar number 1, discovering and reconnecting with your purpose. Now, this is often the easiest or potentially the biggest challenge that my clients come to me for, because some of them have a lot of clarity on what they want to be doing, and some have no idea where to even start. Now, for me, it took me over 12 years to not only find, but begin to embody and explore and gain clarity on what my purpose here on earth truly was. Now, I'd always been an extremely ambitious person growing up. I always knew my career trajectory and the direction that I wanted to go in. When I was in university and college, I knew that I was on my path. I had this great passion for helping people, and I planned on leveraging that passion to work for the UN and support my, cultural background and upbringing, my people back home in Lebanon. Now, we all know that unfortunately, sometimes things happen that you could not anticipate. And while I was studying to work for the UN and, focusing on international studies and political science in college, my family was actually spending the summer in Lebanon, and we got caught in the civil war that broke out there. Not the civil war, but one of many wars that broke out there years ago. And that passion that I had for helping people just turned into just pure pain and devastation. I felt like no matter what I could possibly do, there was no way that I would be able to make a difference and move the needle and help my people. So in an effort to fill that void, I decided that I needed something new and exciting, which is when I fell into the world of advertising and marketing. Now, if you've ever traveled to maybe a new, vibrant city, Las Vegas, New York, maybe even Dubai, you never forget that thrill, that kind of anxious feeling in your stomach when your plane is about to land and you're about to take off on a new adventure. It's that overwhelming feeling of excitement and almost sensory overload in some of these cities. And to me, that's always what the world of advertising and marketing felt like. I always felt like every day I showed up, like I had finally arrived. And this was further instilled in me because I continuously received different accolades from clients and colleagues, and was constantly asked to help out with different projects and pitches, and even nominated to head up different culture and event committees. And due to having so much external validation early on, I finally felt like I was, for once, in control of other people's perceptions of me. Externally, it appeared that I had made it and I was doing all these really cool, inspiring, and amazing things. So because of that, I was able to convince myself that I was on the right path and doing the right things for me. But very early on, that first job after graduate school, that charm quickly wore off. And I remember being asked where I saw myself in 10 years. Now, this was not a question that I typically struggled to answer at all. In fact, I used to love this question, but I realized that the version of happiness that I had set out to accomplish just no longer aligned with what I saw in the people around me. Everyone to me who was down that 10-year trajectory, that 10-year path, seemingly looked very unhappy, unhealthy, and mostly unfulfilled. So in that moment, I subconsciously set a glass ceiling for myself. And because I wanted to correct this quickly, I decided to start making a bunch of external changes. So I switched jobs, I changed industries, I even moved to different states to try to do something different. At one point, I even landed my dream job in the industry that I was super passionate about, which allowed me to travel the world and work with different cultures and people, which I also loved. Yet, despite all of my seeming success, I still consistently felt emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted, like I was just going through the motions. And the more it seemed like I went up the corporate ladder, the more boxed in I felt. So I finally reached a pivotal point in my life, in my personal and professional life, that I realized that I had to do something different. Since I realized that all these external changes that I was making didn't really seem to have long-term results, all the results were very short-lived, I decided to start doing the work of looking within. Now, Once I set out on this self-healing journey, I quickly realized that this is what I wanted to do and make and turn into my life's work. And as it turns out, from sorting through my own mess, I was able to fall into coaching, where I now help people find their purpose, connect with it, and turn their mess into their message. Now, pillar number 2, when you're transitioning or navigating a big change, is to get grounded in order to navigate that change. Now, anytime that you set out to make a big shift in your life, it will inevitably create movement, this energetic movement, which more likely than not will cause a ripple effect in other areas of your life. And because of that, it's important for you to find something that grounds you, something that you're able to lean on for support during both good and bad times. Now, a lot of times my clients will come to me and say, Zaina, I have so much external support, though. I'm fine. I'm good with this. I have great family, friends, spouse, community, which is all absolutely fantastic. And I implore you to, if you don't have that, to seek that out. However, it's super important to note that you also need to make sure that you're building the same sense of home, safety, and security within yourself so that it's always easily accessible. As you may know, we can't control the things outside of us, the things in our environment. However, the one thing that we can control is ourselves and how we react to our environment. So just to give you a personal example, for me, physical fitness has always been the one thing that has grounded me throughout the years. As a child, I was heavily involved in sports, which gave me a great sense of structure, consistency, and it set a solid foundation, which has kept me grounded throughout the years. Now, working out has always been the one non-negotiable that I have in my life. It's that time of day that I set aside for myself that no matter what, I always make time for it, and I never let anything get in the way of that. And over the years, because I was so into this practice for myself, I started to develop a kind of black and white thinking, or very go hard or go home mentality that became deeply ingrained in my identity. And I had convinced myself that if I wasn't able to show up 200% in the gym, if I wasn't killing myself, then I wouldn't get results, kind of like this all or nothing. And with that, the reason I bring this to your attention is because although physical fitness for me in this example has been a very solid anchor for me, even that solid anchor that you have from your practice can and most likely will be challenged and tested. So over the years, I, especially more recently, continuously developed different sports injuries to the point that I always felt like something was wrong. So I mention this because just because you used to do something one way and it used to work for you doesn't mean that that same practice, that same anchor will continue to work for you. You're going to have to change things around most likely and shift things. And maybe that one thing that used to anchor and ground you may not work at all. And that's totally fine because that's how we change and evolve as humans. So with that, you need to be ready and willing to evaluate the successes that you have in your life the same way you would evaluate a failure with a fine-tooth comb. So in realizing that this all or nothing mentality just wasn't an option for me anymore, I had to find a new way to make things work. And in order to stay grounded, I had to be less rigid with my workout routine and become much more flexible with it. And once I had this realization, then and only then was when I began to thrive. I was able to find balance, peace, and harmony, not only within myself, but within my body and then the rest of my life. If you're to picture or visualize an anchor on a boat, when you want to stop somewhere in the middle of the sea, you always want to have extra slack on that rope in order for the anchor and the boat to remain buoyant and roll with the waves. Because if it's too tight, that rope will most likely be challenged and tested and snap. So it's important to remember and apply this to any practice that you're planning on using to be grounded, that you truly have to remain flexible with it in order for it to stay a solid anchor in your life. So finally, pillar number 3 is the ability to find fulfillment on an ongoing basis in order to make waves. Now, this one brings me back to coaching. So I had always had a deep desire to help people my entire life, like I mentioned earlier. And specifically, I realized that I wanted to help people in the way that I wish I had been helped years ago. I had always wanted someone to see my differences, and instead of making me feel like I needed to change myself and sort of chameleon in order to fit into any of these environments that I was in, to instead help me recognize my gifts, leverage them, and then help me stand out. Now, because of this, I always found the hard way of doing things, and I struggled and I fought. But once I started to accept and lean into my differences, these shadow parts of me that I'd once rejected, I really then started to reconnect with my authentic path. Now, I love sharing the story of how I never imagined in a million years that I would be an entrepreneur. In fact, I actually fought the idea of starting my own business and working for myself up until the very day that I actually filed for my LLC. And a few months later, I started heavily investing in myself professionally and personally. And because of that, I decided that I would leave the corporate world a few months after I'd filed for my LLC. And in 2 weeks after being free from corporate, I finally felt like I had accomplished more than I had ever accomplished in my entire career in just 2 weeks. That level of fulfillment that I had always been chasing finally felt like it was truly unsurpassed. And the work that I set out to do began to retroactively heal the younger version of me who for so long wished to receive it. Now, for years, I had dedicated myself to changing the things around me. And it wasn't until I started changing the things within me for the magic to truly happen for me. So you may be asking yourself, where does this leave us? You're all here today, which might mean that there's a voice inside your head telling you that it's time to make a change. So what's your next step? Regardless of where you're at, whether you know where you're going or if you have absolutely no idea where to start, I invite you to start looking within and beginning to explore your options. Now, it doesn't matter where you start, how big or how small, it just matters that you start taking action and moving forward. And if you feel like you need any support or guidance along the way, do not be afraid to ask for help. Because just like you're looking for someone to guide you, the chances are that they are looking for you too. So I'd like to take a moment and offer to you all for joining us here today access to my complimentary clarity workbook that you can find at crockcoaching.com/freebie. I'll add that in the chat at the end of this, but it's a really great starting point for getting clarity on where you're at currently and where you'd like to be in both your personal and professional life, and have those kind of connect and allow you to find and reconnect with your purpose and get more fulfillment in your life. Additionally, I would love for you all to take out your phone and connect with me on LinkedIn, and also follow me on social media at crockcoaching. I'm most active on Instagram, and I'm constantly sharing thoughts and inspirations for my work one-on-one with clients. And I will also be soon announcing group coaching start dates, events, retreats, and partnerships. So I'd like to ask you all to take a look at your life right now and reflect on some of the conversations that we've had, and ask yourself these 3 questions. What do you feel like you were put on this earth to accomplish? What keeps you grounded when times get tough? And finally, what can you start doing today in order to get more fulfillment in your life? You see, when you begin to step into your power, when you start taking inspired action toward your dreams, you begin communicating to the universe that you're ready to step into a new role, into a new life, to step into a new version of yourself. Now, I'd like to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite motivational speakers named Eric Thomas. And his quote goes like this: "There will never be a point in your life where it's the right time to do a great thing. If you're waiting for that perfect moment, that perfect timing, it will never happen. You know what you have to do is that you have to create the perfect time and the perfect opportunity and the perfect situation." Now, we all go through a handful of transitions in our lives, right? And there's no need to try to tread the murky waters of change alone. Now, as you set out and you go through these changes that you're navigating, I invite you to remember these 3 things and use them as your North Star to make sure that you're following the right aligned path for you. Discover your purpose, get grounded so you can navigate change, and finally, find fulfillment so you can make waves in not only your life, but in the lives of those around you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much, Zaina. And I hope, make a note of the questions that you may have for later. Oh, I think this evening we have heard stories that could have broken our speakers if they allowed their story to actually control the trajectory of their lives. And Sarah Grace, who is going to be sharing next, again, a winner, a survivor, resilient. And Sarah, the floor is yours, my sweetheart. Take it away.
Thank you. So, wow, what an evening. What an evening. What have I been missing all these months not tuning into these? I've listened to loads of the replays, but Carol, my goodness, this space is absolutely awesome. And I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. Thank you for reaching out, Carol. This is such an opportunity. I always love an opportunity to share my passion. Paige, wow, you are speaking my language, lady. Subconscious, woohoo. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm with you on the subconscious. And Marika, how the hell, my actual words were a lot cruder than that. How on earth did you end up there? It could have happened to any of us. I've been in those queues and my goodness, absolutely rocked me, your story. Zena, thank you. Feeling different absolutely resonates with me, and that turning your mess into your message. Yeah, I hope I can share some of that with everybody tonight. I am aware that I am the end of the evening speaker, and you're hanging on because you want to ask some questions. So my invitation to you is right now, I've got a little bit of a trigger warning because what I'm going to talk about is about sexual abuse and incest. And if this is something that affects you, please look after yourself while I'm speaking. If it gets too much, I'm not going to share any of the gory details, but if it does get too much, please take some deep breaths and tune out, knock me off, silence me if you need to. I'm going to share I think my message is that we don't speak out about this horrible thing. And I'm going to speak out about it. But if it's triggering you too much, please look after yourself. Don't be polite and stay. Just turn off your camera, turn off your sound if you need to. I'd like to start off by acknowledging everybody here for taking the time to be here, as Paige did. And I'd like also to say, let's allow everything, every bit of us to be here right now, even those emotions that we perhaps feel are not allowed. Maybe we're thinking, been here an awful long time, need to be doing this, need to be doing the other. Perhaps we're feeling a little bit irritated that, I need to go and get a drink, but don't want to go, bring all of that in. Everything that you are feeling right now is welcome in this moment. All we've got is this moment. So let's ground into this moment with a little, really quick little exercise to get out of our heads where all the shit happens, excuse my French, and into our bodies where we can actually be here, present in the moment. So my invitation to you all is to, if it feels comfy, close your eyes. If not, just sort of gaze down to the tip of your nose and take a couple of long, slow, deep breaths. So let's breathe in for 4, hold for a sec, and then breathe out for 6. And again, in for 4, hold, and out for 6. When we do this, keep doing it. When we do this and we increase the length of the exhalation, we effect massive changes on our physiology. Which Paige will know all about, we invite our vagus nerve to tell our brain that we're safe. That we cannot be being chased by a saber-toothed tiger because we're breathing out more than we're breathing in. Just by doing, remember this, everybody, because when you do this, when you breathe out for longer than you breathe in, you completely calm down your nervous system and you let it know that you're safe. If you suffer from panic attacks, if you suffer from anxiety, simply breathing out longer than you breathe in has the most massive effect on your physiology. So thank you. Thanks for playing along. Thanks for trusting me. Remember that little thing. It's so important. It's helped me so much. So I'm going to share with you my story. I am extremely happy to say that I'm one of the happiest, luckiest, most content and fun-loving women I know. I'm my own boss. I get paid for doing work that I feel deeply, deeply, deeply rewarding. And I absolutely love what I do. I also live in a gorgeous part of the world in southern Spain, and I'm surrounded by really kind people. I've got the privilege of being mother to two most beautiful humans, adults now. Don't know how I've ended up old enough to have two adult children, but apparently I am. Don't know, but I appear to be. And I'm miraculously recently married, hence the Jackson Grace conundrum, to my very hot best friend and soulmate. I feel safe and loved, and I feel really understood. And I am, for the most part, content. I'm content with how I look, how I feel, both on the inside and the outside. And I'm even able to accept that my body is changing as I grow older. And I'm even grateful for my physical and emotional health, even though this bit here, my face, is really changing. There's stuff going south. I didn't know could go south, but it really is. And stuff's drying up that shouldn't dry up. But I'm able to be grateful for it because I'm still here, and a lot of people don't have that privilege. Life's really, really good. However, it wasn't always that way. My story really starts when I was about age 12, and this is where the trigger stuff starts. I was sitting at a long wooden bench in a human biology lesson. The boys were on one bench, the girls were on the other bench. I'm old. This is how they used to do it. And there was a lot of giggling and sniggering as we were instructed to turn to the page in our books, our books that we'd been given by the teacher, that showed a diagram of the female reproductive organs and the male reproductive organs. I was sat there swinging my legs on my stool, which I'm very short. So I was swinging my legs, feeling quite carefree. And then I looked at these black and white line drawings as the teacher explained the basics of sexual intercourse and how babies are made. And I just felt all of the blood drain into my feet. My stomach plummeted to the floor, and the feeling of nausea absolutely overwhelmed me. As this teacher's words sank in, I realized that what he was describing was what my stepfather was doing to me and had been doing to me for as long as I could remember, and I was only 12. It was at that moment I realized just how different I was from everybody in the class, and I felt like I'd got a flashing beacon on my head that what went on in our house was never to be spoken of. I kind of knew that in my body, but right then I knew I could never speak about that which was going on at home. He was a very upstanding member of the community. He was a teacher. Everybody loved him. I knew in that moment I was disgusting. I was shameful. I was absolutely confused, and I was really scared. He was good. I was bad. He was my caretaker, my stepfather from when I was 4. He was my caretaker. I trusted him. I loved him. So I must be wrong. At that moment, my throat closed, clamped shut. My jaw clenched shut and I swallowed everything. I realized I was absolutely on my own. This secret could never be spoken of. Nobody would ever believe me. He was such a wonderful man. And just like he said, it was all my fault. I must have encouraged him. I never said no. If I didn't want him to do what he was doing, why didn't I stop him? Why didn't I say no? Just because we don't say yes, it doesn't mean just because we are unable to say yes. Just because of that, it does not mean that a no is not screaming out from our body. When we're little, when we're big, we often don't have access to no, but it doesn't mean we say yes. So fast forward 5 years, I'm 17. I'm sat on the bottom step of the open plan wooden steps in the staircase in our living room that I shared with my mum, him, and my 2 lovely brothers. And I'm looking up into my mum's furious face. She's standing over me. She seems huge. She's not. She was 5 foot. She's standing over me, hissing in a fierce, hushed whisper. Well, she says, you've got what you want. You can have him. In my head, I'm screaming, Mum, don't go. Please don't leave me. I can still remember the desperation in the pit of my stomach. She turned, hate oozing out of every pore of her body, and I say nothing. My throat's clamped shut. I lower my gaze, tears in my eyes, swallow the pain, the shame, and say nothing as she leaves with my brothers. This is it. I'll never escape now, I think. This is it. I was trapped and I didn't escape until I was 18 years old. 14 years after the abuse started. I was left with him to be his wife. I didn't have any choice. It was not until 2 years later, after absorbing this hate from my mum on the stairs, powerless to speak, that I was saved. And I was saved by this magnificent woman that I have never had a chance to thank. This woman, who was pretty much a stranger to me, but who knew me through her daughter at school. We were at sixth form together. I used to go round to her house after school now and again. And somehow she knew what was happening. I don't know how she knew. I think it had happened to her, but I don't know. I've never had a chance to ask her. Tried to find her, I can't find her. But what she said to me changed my life. What she said to me was, one day in town, she met me in a break from school in sixth form. She met me and she said, Sarah, if you do not leave that house that you are living at tonight and come and live with me and Gail, I'm going to tell the world what he's doing to you. In that moment, it was as if the entire weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. Nobody had ever given me a way out. Nobody, because I loved him. I cared about him. I felt like he would die if I wasn't there looking after him. And she said, if you don't leave him, I'll tell the world what he's doing. And I knew how bad it was, what he was doing. So I left. Her and her husband came and got me. I went to stay at my friend's house, and to her, I will be eternally grateful. So if you, I just want to make this really clear, if you suspect that a child or a young adult is in a really compromising situation, don't ask them what they want, because they can't say. We can't say. This trauma bonding thing is really real. You become the protector of the abuser at a ridiculously young age. My healing journey, although I didn't recognize it, began on the 10th of January 1994. I was laying propped up in a maternity ward, having just had an emergency cesarean section. I was holding the most precious creature in the entire universe in my arms. And at that moment, I didn't know it. But as I looked into the eyes of my absolutely beautiful baby daughter and felt the warmth of her tiny, perfect body pressed to my breast, and feeling the enormity and the indescribable love that I had for her, I had a precious glimpse into the future of what would be eventually my truth. For the first time ever, I experienced what it felt like to feel enough, to feel proud of myself, to feel like the cleverest creature ever on the planet. And if you've had a baby, you remember that first time, that first moment that you held your child and you're like, I am magnificent. How the hell did I do this? I'd grown this precious gift inside of the body that I absolutely hated. The body that had caused me so much pain and so much shame. I actually, for the first time in my life, loved it. I realized that that body I loathed could actually do something I could appreciate it for. And in that instance, I vowed that whatever happened to me was never going to happen to her. No one was ever going to violate my child in the way that I'd been violated. And my fierce determination to protect grew stronger with the birth of my exquisitely perfect son 19 months later. He and his sister grew, and as they did, so did my resolve to speak up for myself, to be heard, and no longer swallow my feelings, and to keep the peace in my very dysfunctional marriage. I chose somebody who was familiar, unpleasant and familiar. I finally plucked up courage to go to my GP and ask for help after, you'll resonate with this, Paige, after about 5 years of bulimia. And he referred me for counselling. I think the bulimia came as a reason to go and ask for help, because I couldn't ask for help for the sexual abuse, but I could for the bulimia. It was kind of more acceptable. And a month later, walked into this overly warm, cramped therapy room at the local psychiatric hospital to meet my therapist, Danielle. My heart sank. Danielle was Daniel. They had sent me to speak to a man about sexual abuse. Didn't go well. He did his best, although he did spend most of the time kind of making sure I didn't fall in love with him, telling me how I mustn't fall in love with him, which didn't really help me. I think he was very new. Anyhow, eventually, our last session came. I walked out of the room, closed the door behind me for the last time, feeling exhausted and extremely relieved that therapy was over. And I decided that the only way to deal with my childhood was to box it up and to file it in the furthest corner of my brain, way back there, never, ever, ever to be revisited, which I think so many of us do. Therapy, I resolved, sucked, and I would sort myself out. I became hyper independent. So that's what I did. For the next decade, I knuckled down to being the best mum I could be. I left the marriage, got promoted at work. I was an emergency nurse practitioner in a busy A&E department. I started a side hustle. I devoured all the self-help books I could possibly find. Lovers came and went. Nobody lasted more than 2 years. I didn't let anybody in. Outside, I looked like I was doing fine. On the inside, I could feel that the way I was living was completely and utterly unsustainable, but I couldn't rest. At night, the nightmares were terrifying. And I woke most mornings with my jaw absolutely clenched shut, with my shoulders around my ears, and I wasn't able to unlock my mouth until I'd massaged around here till I could kind of open my mouth. I was plagued by migraines, by back pain. I didn't know where to go for help or what I needed. I just knew that as long as I could stay busy, put the mask on as soon as I walked out the front door, and keep my act together for the kids, I'd be okay. And we were. In 2004, the kids and I said our goodbyes to cold, windy Cumbria and set off for an adventure in the sunnier climes of southern Spain, which is where I still live. Looking back, I think I was running away from my past, but back then I would have denied that venomously. I wasn't running away from anything. I really was. Once I settled down, I continued to stay busy because I have never worked so hard for so little, ever, as I have since I moved to Spain. I read all I could find out on the law of attraction, mindfulness, metaphysical healing, energy healing, crystal therapy, hugging trees, Reiki, you name it, I did it. My refusal to give up on the search was finally rewarded 10 years ago by coming across a therapy called hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy and hypno-healing. And I enrolled at the Atkinson Ball College of Hypnotherapy and Hypno-Healing. And thankfully, this was my transformation. What I learned there over the next year completely changed my life. Learning how to become a hypnotherapist and working with the subconscious mind was experimental, was experiential. So each week we'd practice what we were learning on each other. And I decided, right, this guy who's running this course, you have to pay him 200 quid for a session. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to get therapy to within an inch of my life. And that's what I did. I got therapied. So this amazing man helped me find my inner child, helped me find the subconscious programs that were running my behavior. Now we didn't have to go re-digging it all up, finding out about what was causing pain and talking about it. We didn't have to do any of that. We're just in there like a ninja. This is what's causing the crap. Get out of there now. Done. And it was magic. And I thought, wow, if he can do this for me, and I thought he was broken beyond belief, I can help people do this. So that inspired me to go on to help other people. It took me till COVID, to put my big girl pants on, which is what I call them. I was doing hypnotherapy for everybody. And then I realized, you know what, Sarah, what you actually want to do is you want to help people who think they are unhelpable, who feel so alone and lost in the world. That's who you want to help. And, you know, to be honest, this isn't a sexy subject. It's really, really difficult to market what I do to the people who need to hear it. Because when you have experienced childhood sexual abuse, and that's 1 in 4 women and of the people who tell, and 1 in 6 boys of the boys who tell. So it's far more than that. How on earth am I going to say to you, come and work with me. I can make your life better. And they're like, I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. Through gritted teeth, which is what I said for years. How do you access these people? And how do I get my message across to these people? The way I believe I can do it is by doing this, by talking on stages all over the world and letting people know you do not have to live with the shame, that the chronic crippling shame that you're living with. You do not have to live with that. It's a lifelong process, healing from childhood sexual abuse. Absolute lifelong process. You are not going to heal in a 6-month program. I sell my program as 6 months. It never is. All of the ladies who have ever signed up with me, they signed up with me. I started doing this at the beginning of COVID because my side hustle was massage. COVID kind of put the dampers on that. Couldn't touch anybody, couldn't travel. So unless I was going to massage people on the end of a long broomstick with a rubber glove on, it was never going to work. So that was what made me decide, right, I'm going to do hypnotherapy and I am going to help the people who are me 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And it is the most rewarding thing I have ever done. I was a nurse for 20 years in A&E where people really needed help. But this is the thing. This is how I can help people. I can really help you using the power of the subconscious mind, which Paige so beautifully explained, and I don't have to go into now. Your subconscious mind is running all of your shows. It's running everything that is important in your life, and it is running on false information. What you learned when you were a child, how you learned to survive, is what your subconscious is still doing for you now, and you don't need to do it anymore. And all you need is a programmer to hold your hand and take you back to understand why your subconscious is doing what it's doing, and you can undo all that. And it is not immensely painful. You've got to be brave. You've got to be brave to want to do this, but it's not terribly difficult. It's not at all. It's within access of all of us. So just to finish up, I have no idea how long I've been talking. Just to finish up, the things that some of the people have said, because getting testimonials from people is really hard, because nobody wants to, fess up that they were sexually abused, because there's still all this shame, which I am on a mission to enable every woman and empower every woman who has ever been sexually abused to be able to go, yes, me. Yes, me, I was. And you know what? I'm bloody proud of the woman I have become because of what happened to me. Because so many of us shrink into that, oh, yeah, I was. But no, we are all massive survivors. We are really strong because we're still going. And those of us are out there, of which there are many, have decided to be therapists and to help other people. We are particularly strong and we need to be heard. So some of the things that people have told me that they have got from being in my program is that they have realized that inner bitch in their head is an inner bitch and it's not them. It's not true. What that woman in their heads tells them is not true. And if it was somebody that was supposedly a friend, they'd boot them out. They wouldn't put up with it. They're able to talk about things that they felt were utterly secret. They've discovered what consent means. They've found their authentic yes and no, maybe for the very first time in their lives, and how that can help them with boundaries. They've got freedom from being triggered by everything. Triggered into crying, triggered into being angry. They get upset far less. And they understand why they get triggered. So that, because you cannot do anything about that first thought, but the second thought you can do everything about. So when you're triggered, you can do something about it. They've learned that being in a community enables them to trust, because what happens with sexual abuse is it happens in the dark usually, and it happens in silence. And being able to speak out about what's happened to you, being able to speak in the light about what happens to you means you can be understood and validated, and you're not alone. You're not alone. And that's the thing. You're not alone. All of those things that you're doing that you think make you bonkers, make you mad, make you totally alone in the world, there is 1 in 5 women, at least 1 in 6 men who are feeling the same. So reach out. For God's sake, reach out. If you are going, yeah, okay, maybe what I'm feeling is something to do with that thing that I've boxed up and put back there and I won't look at. Maybe there is a place I can be that will allow me to remember my authentic self. So I'll pop my links in the chat. There's a support group that honestly costs less than a cuppa and a scone, or a scone if you're from the south of England, a scone from the north. There's you can join us free for a month if you like a stay, costs you less than a cuppa and a scone. And if you want to work with me one-to-one, if you want to be part of the program and get into this community, there's lots of ways to work with me. But honestly, whether it's me, somebody else, talk within a safe container. And I've also got a little free gift, which is not just for people who've been sexually abused, anybody who's feeling anxiety. I've got a lovely hypno meditation, lasts about 20 minutes, and it will just help calm that vagal nerve, calm everything in your body, help you find peace. Listen to it when you're going to sleep. It will set you up for the night, because what you wake up with is what you went to sleep with. And it'll reset that subconscious program. Paige is nodding her head. Yeah, we need to talk, lady. Yeah, so wonderful to be able to speak to you all. Thank you, Carol. I hope I haven't gone over. Thanks so much. Love you all.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Now, what I'm going to do, thank you from the bottom of my heart to our speakers this evening. To Paige, who kicked it off superbly. Oh my goodness, so much was covered. To Marika, to Zaina, and to Sarah. What I'm going to do now is just open the floor up for questions. because I am sure there will be. So without further ado, put your hand up and come off. Activate your microphone. I'm speechless. I can't even speak. Activate your microphone and ask your questions. Or if you don't want to ask on your mic, put it in the chat and I will have a look. Oh my goodness, what an evening. I think I need therapy.
Carol, are your evenings always like this? Because I feel like I've just been on another planetary experience.
Yeah, absolutely. They are. A lot of them are like this.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So yes, Naresh, I see you come off your mic. Yes, please ask away.
I just want to say thank you to all the speakers, and you all had brilliant stories about your life, and I think you're brilliant ladies, and the way you've told your stories came from the heart, and also you've been there, you've done it, you know, and it's very sad stories to start off with, but hooray, look at it, look at you lot now. I want to get there one day as well. And I've learned a lot through these. And I love these sessions. They're beautiful. They're helping me. Thank you so much, each one of you. Thank you.
Naresh, what I would say is take advantage of the offers that are being put in the chat. Please take advantage of them, sweetheart. Oh,
thank you. I'm lost for words. Actually, I've took that much in today.
yeah. All right. Now let's move my, bear with me. Anyone else who would like to ask a question or make an observation, please use this time. And one thing I'll also say, another thing I'd say, it isn't easy, and it was shared earlier, it isn't easy to live with a lived experience that has been, in some cases, debilitating, but freeing yourself is beginning to talk about it is the start of freeing yourself and getting the help that you need. Yeah, we weren't created to be held hostage to our emotions.
This is a clean-cut case, and there is only one.
Yes, Alina, please go ahead and ask your question. You're still muted, sweetheart.
It's not a question as such, but I just wanted to say thank you guys, for pouring your hearts out, and it was lovely. I mean, I think most of all of you were talking about, talking to other people, seeking help, and not to keep it yourself. I mean, I think I did it. I kept something for 30 years, and it just hit home last month. And I mean, Carol, no, I've just been in hospital for the past, almost four weeks or a month because of something which really I had kept so long, and I didn't share with anybody. I didn't look for help, and it triggered a lot because it was just there in the long-term memory. So, what we keep inside, it's really, it's it up every time. So I really appreciate you coming out and wanting to share with the world to heal us, because we all need this healing. Sometimes you think I'm a wellness coach, but I thought, I'm covered. And I just discovered when I fell through that I wasn't covered at all. I just needed more, and I still need to do more. So thank you so much.
Oh, yes, Selena. Paige.
Hi, everyone. Gosh, I know I've already spoke today, but I just am so emotional, like hearing the power of this container, and especially women coming together, sharing stories. And I want to share that as a result of like the subconscious healing work that I've done, I actually just recently, 2 years ago, uncovered 2 decades of repressed memories I didn't know I had. And at the root of those memories was repressed childhood sexual trauma. And, you know, Sarah Grace, like your story is unbelievable. And what I have found about us sharing our stories is that when we're sharing the monologue in our head and we're saying the thoughts that we have and the things that we think, we get to recognize ourselves in each other. And I recognize so much of myself and my story and what you shared. And it's so evident on paper that that's abuse, right? Like that is it's just clear as day. We all know that. For me, mine was a little bit more muddled and confusing, and it's all confusing in all different ways for all different people, of course. But Sarah Grace, I kind of have a question for you, because I'm curious about how you address folks who are caught in the comparison trap of, oh, well, that didn't happen to me, so mine's not so bad. Or how do I even know that this constitutes as abuse? Or what do you say, or how do you help the people who are very confused about those boundaries?
Yeah, I hear you. I've just had a one-to-one with somebody just before our call tonight on exactly this. She doesn't know whether she was abused or not. However, it doesn't matter. If something hurts, if you've got a hurt, if something's hurting you, then the way that we work with the subconscious, it doesn't matter what the cause was, but we can find it and we can undo it. We can help you undo it. So whether or not to me, anybody who comes to me, even with a little bit of like, I don't even know if I don't know, but lots of the stuff that you say is resonating with me. Let's work together. Let's do it, because we're not going to know. The subconscious has buried that stuff for a very good reason. To be, for me, I do not remember the first 18 years of my life. I have absolute dissociative amnesia. That's a posh word for it, which means it was so bloody shite, can't remember it. That's what it means. And that's the same for a lot of people. They don't know what happened. What matters is what's going on right now. Yeah. And what's going on right now isn't serving you, then get somebody who can help you access your subconscious that does know exactly what's going on and undo those programs that are holding you back. Does that answer the question, Paige?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And yeah, it's a wild journey, healing from trauma. And that's why I love the subconscious so much, because it's healing from both known and unknown trauma, the trauma that we know that we had, and also the trauma we don't know we have. And whether that's from present lifetime, past lifetime, generational trauma, there's so much there that we can locate and upgrade. And I appreciate your reiteration of like, we don't have to reenact, we don't have to go back to the details or the conscious remembrance in order to shift those underlying causes. And I just so appreciate your light and what you're doing and offering in the world. And even though we're both in the subconscious realm, we do it totally different. And so we all do need each other.
Absolutely. And we as like therapists, we need each other. Yeah. I'm going to reach out to everybody who is talking tonight. It'd be wonderful to connect with you. Thank you, Carol, for bringing us together. You are an absolute star. Thank you, darling.
Oh my goodness, there is a need. There is a need.
Can I? Hello.
Oh, Georgia. Hi, sweetheart.
Disembodied voice. Hi. I joined a little bit late, so I missed your talk, Paige, but I got everybody else. I moved, and I'm emotional and touched by what you've all shared. And Sarah, and the whole, the whole subject around the subconscious interests me because, like you, Paige, what you just described, I've been going through some things recently, and Carol knows what those things are, like nightmares, terrors, and very much sexualized attacks. And I've been trying to understand what is going on. And so what you have shared, Sarah, kind of resonated a little bit, and Paige yourself. But I've not really understood my memories. I have certain memories, and I was trying to understand whether what I'm remembering, or what I'm experiencing in my dreams is a reality. Did something happen to me when I was younger? And I just don't know. Yeah. So
We don't know, darling. We don't know. That's the thing. But your subconscious does. Paige was saying, we're trying to fix this problem with the 5% of our mind, which is our conscious mind, which doesn't know. You cannot fix your problems in the mind that were created with the same mind. So you need somebody who can help you get into your subconscious, whoever that is. You just need to trust them and know that, you know, you're safe with them. And by doing that, by reaching out to them, they can really help you make sense of your nightmares. Paige, they both help people with nightmares, you know, because nightmares are where the subconscious can let rip. What would you have to say, Paige?
Yeah. As I mentioned, the subconscious doesn't know the difference between memory, reality, and imagination. So what's so jarring about night terrors, nightmares, I had night terrors until I was 7 years young and hooked up to machines and brain scans and doctors asking me what was wrong. And, you know, it's so terrifying because we're perceiving that things are real that might not be real. And we're perceiving that things aren't real that are. And so that real and imaginary boundary gets muddled. And the truth of the matter is, it doesn't much matter what's real or what's not. That's what the conscious mind is going to want to try and analyze and figure out, which is crazy making. But the underlying feelings of terror or panic or fear or uncertainty or confusion are the emotions we need to be processing.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
And so once we process those root emotions that are actually connected to everything else, those clarities actually naturally start to present themselves.
Yeah.
And then you in your wisdom, you will know. You will start to learn what is real and what isn't.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And feel better. Have a better now.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Naresh, did you want to say something else? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I'll put it in the box to you, Carol, actually, because I forget. Well, let me just check if it's still there. Oh, I said you can only talk about problems and understand if you've gone through them yourself, and which you all ladies have. It's the hurt, but it'll get better.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned from all of you today, that each one of us are hurt. And all you have been hurt in the past, but you've been very strong ladies and you've stood up for yourselves.
Eventually.
Well done. Well done.
Well.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Don't do it on your own, darling. Don't do it on your own. Don't do it like we did. Do it with help.
Definitely.
Oh, goodness. Any questions for Zaina? Sorry, Zaina, it's all been...
It's been very emotional this evening.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah. I think you get lost for words because there's been so many good things coming, and each one of you have answered lots of things which are going through people's minds. So, all I can say is well done. Brilliant.
Oh.
And you all look lovely as well.
Zaina, what you shared about taking a step into a new arena, a new adventure. I kind of feel like that's where I am at the moment in my life. I'm a visual artist, and I've never really fully committed to being a visual artist until now. And fear has always held me back, doubt. And so I'm at a stage in my life now where I'm going to take a leap. So what you were sharing, I could relate to taking that step. And I feel like excited, but scared at the same time, because I know this is something that I've always wanted to do. So it really helped what you shared. And I'm also intrigued by the image in the background. I keep looking at it. What is it?
In my background?
That half circle that you have.
Oh yeah, it's a half sun, and then just some other shapes, and then line art. You can't really see it. This one in the middle is my favorite. One of the ones where every time you look at it, it takes on a different shape, which I love also because to me that symbolizes change, and it's all about reframing in your perspective, right, of where you're at. Every time you look at something, if you're able to look at it from a different perspective, it changes everything associated with that, right? But I love what you're saying about really leaning into your intuition and taking that big step. And even, a lot of people don't take those steps because fear and scarcity and all these things really do hold them back. But even just starting to experiment and taking small steps towards your goals is still, it's how you get there, right? So you don't necessarily have to jump off the cliff in order to go and arrive at where you want to be. We always tend to think of, I'm either at the bottom of the mountain and then I'm at the top. We don't think of any of those steps or even congratulate ourselves for taking all those steps to get us from where we are to where we want to be. So that may be something to kind of bear in mind as you navigate this transition. And also, like I'd mentioned, like having something absolutely that keeps you grounded. So you constantly, you're closer to that mountain. You're not falling off and flailing. That's always been something that helps, that, listening to your intuition and letting that guide you, because at the end of the day, that voice inside your head that's telling you, we need to make a change. This is what you love. This is what you're passionate about. It really doesn't go away. It just kind of gets louder over the years. In my experience, that's exactly what happened. And it just got to a point where I was like, I just surrender. Like, I don't know what else to do. And it's beautiful once you're on the other side of that. It's just so much more freeing when you're able to play in a space and you're kind of spending 80% of your time doing what you love, and then 20% of the time doing things, out of necessity, as opposed to 80% of the time forcing ourselves to be in a job or in a relationship or whatever that we're not happy with, and settling for the, minor 20%. So I'm very proud of you for taking these steps, and I'm glad that this was helpful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Come on, Georgia.
I have the vision. Yeah.
Yes. And Marika, what a journey.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I was just writing in the group because my son was just calling me. So it's been very lovely listening to everybody's stories, inspiring as well. I've noticed a lot of people talking about positive affirmations and the universe and basically law of attraction, really. And that's what I believe in as well. So yeah, I'm making sure that I still, you know, it's something that I do regular anyway, and helps. So it's been really nice to hear. Especially, I was really moved by Sarah's story as well. I don't have any relation to what she's spoken about, but it was, you know, really touching.
Awesome. I was going to say something just now. Yes, everyone, please save the chat. There are valuable links in there.
Yeah.
Valuable links in the chat. So please save it. Oh my goodness. And I hope all our speakers have put all the things they want to put in the chat, their links, etc., their connections. Where can people connect with you? I'm trying to think of everything. Use this opportunity because we may never have these 4 speakers again, where now you've got access to them. Make the most of it. Make the most of it. So,
I just wanted to share a last thing with you lot.
Okay, go for it, Nash.
Okay, is it Zena?
Zena.
I used to do art. In the early age, when I was 16, I used to go to River Thames and do sketching, you know, by the river and everything. And I really used to enjoy it. But I got married and then I had a business. So now I'm a grandma, got grandchildren. But since the lockdown, I became very ill and I've had a lot of illnesses, which I can't actually talk about them at the moment, but I'm getting there slowly. And this has been on my table for the last 2 years. I've done nothing and I'm an artist.
Oh, wow.
And I have got loads of oil paintings, which I have done. But the last 2 years, it's looking at me empty. But today, I got inspired by you lot.
Yay!
And I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
And I will show Carol when it's done, Carol.
Awesome.
So, yeah, honestly, it's been here in this my room where I'm sitting. I use it as doing my art and my meditation and everything. So thank you.
I can give you a big hug right now, Naresh.
Naresh, I'm an artist too. I do paintings. I paint flamenco dances, and something I was taught was just put a wash in it. Suddenly, it's not a scary white canvas anymore. Just stick a wash in it, and you can suddenly do it.
Yes, I know. So what I decided to do was, it's there, and I've got a lovely plant next to it. I've got a bowl next to it, but I actually am I do it just out of my mind, whatever comes in my mind, and sceneries. I used to do a lot of sketching of the boats and things like that. Went to Mauritius about 5-6 years ago, and I did all the sketching there, done a lovely painting, but I just can't get myself to do it. I don't know why.
Commit, do it, send us it.
Yes. You mentioned something interesting. You said that you have this canvas and you haven't done anything with it. But I would argue that just the idea of purchasing, just making the purchase, going to the store, the activity of putting the intention out there to use it, even if you haven't used it yet, but the intentionality with buying it is the first step, right? And so it serves as a constant reminder. Even if you haven't done anything with it, that's totally fine. But you've already taken the step to remind yourself that this is something that I enjoy doing. And potentially one thing to take into consideration, because it is a canvas and it's kind of like, this is at least the way that I would think about it, has having been a perfectionist for so long, is I would buy something like that and then I would be afraid to use it because I'd want to make sure that whatever I was drawing on there was amazing. So maybe the canvas is like the ultimate goal, like the top of the mountain. And while you just get back to acclimated into drawing, maybe you just work on a small piece, like you have a journal that's blank pages and you start drawing in there so it doesn't feel as intimidating, because I'm curious if some of that, perfectionism may be coming up, if that resonates with you at all, of like, oh, this is so nice, and I bought this nice canvas to create something to hang in the house. But if you haven't done it in a while, maybe there's some fear of not having the final product look like what you want, and it's a waste. But I think absolutely, I think it's beautiful that you've even taken the step to buy it, because that shows intentionality, and not like, oh, nothing has happened. Something has happened. You've already created the opportunity to go down that path, and not to forget that, to celebrate those baby steps.
Yeah. Like I said, I've got loads of paintings which I've done. And some of them are in my hallway, and I've actually done them myself. But it's just this trauma, this illness I had, it just wiped everything off. But like today, I want to do it now. I will do it. I've got everything here to start me off. I just keep looking at it.
Share it with us.
Yes,
use those links. Share it with us. We'd love to see.
I will. Thank you.
Really would love to see.
Thank you.
I've got to go. Thank you.
I know.
I've got to go as well now.
We've overrun, but I just couldn't call it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks, Carol.
So, thank you, Sarah, Zaina. I know Marika's hopped off, and also Paige has had to go as well. But thank you for staying on the extra time and sharing your wisdom, your testimonies, your victory, where you were and where you are now. It is priceless. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to leave now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Naresh. Thank you. Thank you, Selena, everyone. Georgia, Nirmala. Janet, thank you for staying the course. Oh, thank you, Nirmala. All right.
I just wanted to ask a question, but I know everybody's late and everybody's got to go. So, Carol, I just wanted to ask you, because I know all these wonderful ladies like Zero Coaching, Zaina, you're amazing. I just think what you're doing is wonderful. The pillars were great. Sarah, your story, my God, I had goose pimples. I'm a journalist, and I've just written my story for a book called Bias Breakers, which was published yesterday. And I just wanted to say, you ladies, your stories are so amazing that we should really have a book, Carol, with KaushalyaUk doing an anthology of all these wonderful people, because I run an awards for women called WOW Women of the World. And you ladies just wowed me with your awesomeness, your courage, and even Marisa and the other, everybody's stories. I am gobsmacked, and I think each of you need to be nominated for an award, but to write your story for a book, because we listen, there's 15 of us or 20 of us, but really your stories would inspire thousands.
Oh, absolutely.
And that would be so nice. So, Carol, I'm going to let you talk to Ritu to do our Kaushalya Wow Women of the World book. And we're going to have Zaina, Sarah, all of your people who've been on these. I've missed a few sessions, but they're all, every time I've attended, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
So
the recordings will all be there, so you can always catch up.
Great.
And Georgia.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Georgia, as well. Everybody who attended, and the other lady, what was her name? Paige. Paige. Was that subconscious therapist. I feel like I've just had a whole evening of revelation. So thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Nirmala. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. So, Janet, thank you again. Joe, thank you. Oh, Joe's just hopped off. But Janet, thank you. You've been very quiet, but I appreciate you staying the course. And I hope you have benefited from the shares that we've had this evening. Can't thank you enough. And Georgia will speak anyway, my sister in Christ, my beautiful sister in Christ, who I'm very close to. So yes, we'll be speaking. Yes. So
about save the chat. How do I save the chat?
Oh, I will save it and send it to you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Let me do that now before I forget, actually.
And I am writing a book.
Oh, you are, Sarah?
I am. It's a labour of love.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. About the relationship between me and my mum and how incest messes it all up.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Sarah, can I ask you?
Yeah.
Have you been reunited with your mum? Did you ever get?
I did. Me and mum, we found. I made the conscious decision 8 years ago to forgive her, and she died 5 years ago. And
wow.
There was only love when she died.
Oh, okay, I'm glad to. Yeah.
Thank
you. Yeah.
I'd like another bash, but we got there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sarah, whereabouts in Spain are you? You said
near. I'm in the mountains near Cordoba.
Okay, lovely. Because I come to Alicante quite a lot. My brother.
About 5 hours away. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, down a bit from you. Down a bit from Alicante. Yeah. Reach out. Lovely to talk to you.
And all of the others, I think we should have a worldwide reunion of all the people you've invited, Carol, on these
That's
shows.
over 200. Well over 200, my dear.
We should all meet. I was in the early days, and after that, I never got a chance because I'm doing other things. But obviously, like I said, I just had this book launched yesterday. It's called Bias Breakers. It is